So today we are going to outline our finished poems and explore what we want our final perspective drawing to look like. We will select an overall theme for our completed project. That will guide the continuity of your statement, which means that your images will say the same things as your words. We will direct your thoughts into concepts and ideas. So this is the first stage of, we're looking at everything we've worked on. Now we're going to figure out what we want to say and how that's going to look, how we want that to come out on paper. In the 5th grade, we're going to have about 20 minutes for everybody to draw. We will draw or trace your best shape as large as possible in perspective view. 7th grade, we will be drawing your shape or shapes on a horizon in 2-point perspective. One will be large and one will be small. One will be up high and one should be down low. That way we can explore kind of the different views of your shapes. For intermediate, we will be drawing a wall with a window in it. We will not take up the whole space, leaving room for you to place something around it and with enough space to place or draw something on the other side of the window. So here we are at home, on the floor. But I do want to make sure you guys have very good just examples of how to draw, especially these different perspectives. There might be some words that you guys aren't familiar with or styles of drawing. So I wanted to make sure that you had good examples that were up close and easy to see. Today we are going to work on drawing the 1-point and the 2-point perspective, and then also the wall with the window in it. So for each of you, your final project will include your poetry, collage work, and for 5th grade, a 1-point perspective. For 7th grade, we will be doing a 2-point perspective. And then for the intermediate, we will have a wall with a window in it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the 1-point and the 2-point perspective here with this kind of natural, where these two pieces of trace paper come together. This is an X-Acto mat, but you can even just draw a grid if you would like to have a grid behind you. You can trace things that you have drawn in your notebook too, which is something often that I will do. So in a 1-point perspective, we would have one place of perspective on our horizon line here. And our horizon line is this horizontal line going across the paper. I've got the green perspective point for our 1-point perspective. I'm going to go ahead and draw a cube. And then I'm going to use my straight edge here to bring these corners in. So you take each corner of your cube and you kind of bring it back to this single point. It's kind of a large working area, and the vertical is not normally how I would work, but I want you guys to really see how this works and how this looks large scale. So then you kind of find your ending point of your cube, your box, and cap it off. And then you can do, of course, your shading techniques, whether you want to crosshatch or stipple or whatever you want to do to kind of convey that depth. And you can even decide that you want to use collage to fill in. So there is our 1-point perspective. So for a 2-point perspective, I'm going to draw a perspective point right here on the horizon line. And I'm going to do a couple of shapes. Let me draw a smaller cube kind of in the same spot so you can see how that change of perspective point will change then your perspective cube just very quickly. And I might even use a ruler for this. A ruler and a different color so you can see, because it's so much right on this edge, this corner. So here we have a cube very similar. Let me end it here. So because this cube is, just right above the perspective point, it's got a very different look to its perspective. You mostly see the bottom instead of seeing the top and the sides. You see just a little bit of this side, which is where sometimes the different colors are nice to add a little bit, especially as you're practicing, where you can really see how your lines lay out. So in our 2-point perspective, with just singular, simple shapes, we kind of have this, just getting to look at different angles, different sides of one shape. Say you wanted to try a sphere, a ball. We're gonna draw the ball right here. But say maybe I want my ball to have like a hole in it with a cube in it. Let's take our ball, let's kind of just gauge the middle. Kind of gauge where the center of your ball is and line it up with your perspective point. And do the same on a few sides. And in this is where it's really good to be able to use your pencil. It's nice to be able to erase these lines. It's mostly your diagonal lines that change in these perspectives that give that depth. So I just drew a horizontal line or a straight line, vertical line, another straight line to show the back of that cube. Also to consider now this perspective point our light source rather than any kind of connection, because as I was saying in this exercise, the depth of a ball is more determined by the way you shade it, the way you convey that depth visually with light sources, more than any kind of connecting of angles as we do with angular shapes. So if this is light right here, then I'm going to say that all of this is pretty well in shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in with some of our shading techniques. If you can kind of get a curve going on with your shading in your ball, it's always helpful. Just kind of conveys a little bit more of that roundness. Also, if you leave a little white space where your light source is hitting, that helps to convey kind of the brightness, the shininess of. So there are some of our, perspective drawing and shading techniques, kind of up close and in a large scale, so you guys can really get a feel for the techniques and how they look. Also to help you to be able to communicate things a little bit more clearly with your drawing, just by making more realistic shapes. For intermediate high school level, we are going to be drawing a wall with a window in it today. If you don't totally finish this today, that's okay. As in any presentation style class, at the end, we're going to start with a fresh sheet of trace paper and trace our final images and place our final collages and poems on a fresh sheet of paper to keep our communication really clear, and also to give us one final chance to edit things out that we might feel are detracting from our message or, too repetitive. It's always just like a good part of the process, that editing, that final draft. Let's have a very basic wall. So we're just gonna have a rectangle And you can, of course, start it in your notebook or trace it or freehand it. Within our rectangle, we are going to have another rectangle. And that is our basic shapes for our wall with our window in it. As we are looking at this, what we're gonna have is a horizon line outside of our window. But then we're also going to have a horizon line inside of our house. So if we were to draw another wall, it would continue along this horizon line, but it would also be a 2-point perspective because there would be this horizon line to consider also. So you could, theoretically draw another window over here. You can take it as far as you want to take it, but I'm just going to show you the very basics. So we have our basic wall and window here. Because this wall does not actually exist, I'm going to go ahead and cap this off as though it really is a free floating wall. We will also work on doing some detail in our windows. So as we get our window, as we're looking at that, we can use this horizon line here to kind of pull some depth into our window. Our window is usually as thick as our wall. And we can do that horizontally and vertically. We can use shadow to convey that depth inside of our window. So we can use some of our shading techniques here. We can also convey depth around the window. Not all windows, but some windows will have these window casings or these little window sills. So those are all fun ways to practice your skill on how you can draw a perspective and shading the different areas around the window. You can even just in these areas see how these little bits of line and detail kind of add some depth and some realism. And really with technical drawing, it's fun. You want to be able to be loose and free. With technical drawing, I think it's important to be able to have fun with it, be loose with it, but also to be able to play with how the different levels of detail and texture and the different line weights of pens and pencils can really add a lot of detail. Often on glass, we'll do these little kind of squiggly lines to show that it's reflective right there, that there is a pane of glass there. So we kind of have done a lot of things, but it's very much based on these early principles of perspective. 2-point perspective is what we're working on when we are looking at drawing these kinds of architectural details. You can really do quite a lot with a 1 or 2-point perspective. You can, of course, draw things that exist, or you can create something out of your imagination, visually explain it in kind of real and concrete terms. As we look at our final drawings for intermediate and high school, yours will have some kind of a wall and a window on it. For 7th grade, you will have a 2-point perspective you can have a circle and a square, or you can have a square and a square, or a circle and a circle. And then for 5th grade, your final drawing will be in some form or configuration, with this.
For the poetry component, 5th grade, today we're going to begin creating your final project. So brainstorm, writing down every word that comes to your mind. This is your place to explore. So everything that comes to your mind, even if it seems silly or random, write it down. That's what brainstorming is. Just don't reject any idea, just write it down. For 7th grade, we will be creating an outline for your final poem. You may choose from any of the 3 forms that we have talked about in this course. Think about the message you want to send to your audience, then begin to outline your haiku, ekphrastic, or free verse poem. And for intermediates, we're going to create an outline for your final poem as well. You may choose from any of the 3 forms we have talked about in this course. Now, imagine how your perspective might influence the message you are sending to your audience when choosing your form, whether it's haiku, ekphrastic, or free verse. Think about this. Whom are you speaking to? And how can your form enhance clarity in your communications?